You are listening to audio from the Decidedly podcast. This episode is a highlight clip from this week's full episode. To listen in on the complete conversation, see the show notes for the link to the complete show. You can help us out by leaving us a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate every bit of your support. I'm Morgan McKittrick, your producer, and this is Decidedly.
Or the first decision that you must make is decide who you are. What you've got to do is spend time, understand your values and your priorities. What makes you who you are? Now, some people get tripped up. They want to move past this decision. They want to ignore this decision, or they think they've already made this decision and they don't have to spend any time on it. I'm not saying that every single time you make a decision, you need to re-decide who you are, but you've got to do it once. And a lot of people live their whole life and they never do it a single time. So number one is decide who you are. This is what makes you you, what makes me me. The unique things about us, a lot of it is out of our control, but most of it absolutely is within our control. So for example, what's within your control? What's within your control are your values. What are the things that are actually important to you? Those are the things you get to decide. You get to choose those. They're not given to you, right? It is who you are, and you make an active choice to say, I want to be accountable to living up to this. You get to pick it. So if you get to pick it, you might as well pick it explicitly. You might as well pick it with confidence. You might as well pick it consciously, because if you don't pick it thoughtfully, you will still pick it. You will still pick those values. You will only pick them unconsciously. You will pick them thoughtlessly. You will pick them recklessly. You will, in other words, live up to something. And if you live up to something that you didn't choose consciously, that is the worst outcome. So decide who you are. What is involved in deciding who you are? Setting upon your values. It is my 100% conviction that your values must be far more precise than you're probably thinking right now. A lot of people say, the most common answer I get is faith, family, freedom. Those are my values, faith, family, freedom. And I don't think any of those are bad. I think those are great. And as far as prioritization, I think you nailed it as well. Okay. It's not precise enough. It's not precise enough to simply say God, family, and liberty. That's not going to get us to an action plan that aligns your daily habits and your long-term goal planning toward significance that is unique to you. It's not. So how do we be more precise than simply single words? And why are single words like faith, family, and freedom imprecise to a fault? Well, why they're imprecise is because those words represent ideas, and those vague ideas can be misinterpreted by other people. So the value I think that is most misinterpreted is integrity. Every single person you know, including liars, thieves, and cheaters, will say that they have integrity. Everyone says they have integrity. Nobody will reject it. Everybody says not only that they have it, but that it's good to have it and that you should have it too. Well, how could it be the case that everybody thinks it's good? Everybody genuinely thinks they have it. They're not lying to you, by the way. They don't just say that they have it and they know they don't. They really do probably most of the time think that they have it. How can that be the case when I know so many people who don't have integrity? Well, it's because everybody defines it a little bit differently. And people who lie justify those lies. They often don't say that they're a liar. People who cheat often justify that cheating. People who steal often justify that theft. I mean, well, how often have you heard this one? Well, no, she was just trying to feed her family. Well, it's still stealing, man. It's still stealing. So my point is people can make great moral errors and justify that and not think anything wrong. So with integrity, it is going to be misinterpreted by others. Even if you don't want to go as far to say that it will be misinterpreted, you can at least, I hope, appreciate that it will be interpreted differently by others. And so what that means, and here's the kicker, is that if it can be interpreted differently by others, that means it can be interpreted differently by you in the future. And that's a problem. That means it's not a very good guide for your life and your actions. If other people misinterpret it, that means they can't hold you accountable to what you said you're going to do. And if future you misinterprets it at critical decision-making points in your life, then the entire exercise was fruitless to begin with. So how do you solve for this? What you do is you distill or extrapolate rather these vague single word values into action phrases. Okay, so step one is you find the words. I recommend 5 words. You have 5 core values. You can't have 30, far too many to hold yourself accountable to, and you can't only have 1 or 2. I think 5 is the magic number. And then with those 5 words, and they might be faith, family, and freedom, and a couple others, and integrity or something else, you're going to extrapolate those into action phrases. What makes it an action phrase? And then also, why are we doing action phrases? Well, we're doing action phrases because if the point of deciding who you are is to align yourself and your actions and your journey and your life and your plan and your money and your business to something transcendent, then it has to inform the choices that you make, the decisions that you make, the things that you do. And in order to inform that, it ought to inspire action. Okay, so what is an example? Now, on our website at decidedlywealth.com, you can see how we've done this for our own company. We used to have 5 single words and they were vague. What we did was we turned them into these action phrases. So an example of one would be, funny enough, decisiveness. That was a value. I said, I want us to all be very decisive. Now, I was thinking at the time what you're thinking right now, which is, well, yeah, I know what that means. Okay, the odds that you and I think the exact same thing about what it means is almost 0. And the odds that 3 people in a company think the exact same thing is almost 0. And the odds that 4 people think the exact same thing is certainly 0. And the more people are in this company and organization and family, et cetera, the less likelihood that they're all going to define it the same way. So we looked at decisiveness, and I started to notice that we still weren't being decisive. People were not being decisive in our company, even though that's what we said was a value of ours. And it's in the name of our company. And we still would struggle with people not being decisive. How? Well, it's because we weren't precise. So what we did was we said, instead of decisiveness, it is be firm in character and purpose. If you are, and I want to repeat that again, be firm in character and purpose. We found by exploring this mentally that if you are firm in character, if you are true to your word, if you are who you say you are, and you know your purpose, you know the mission, you know the vision, you know where you're aiming, you know where you're going, you know what you're supposed to do, then it's so easy to be decisive. You can't help but be decisive. So we found something even better than decisive. Decisiveness, what we found, was a consequence of what we were really aiming at. So that's how you decide who you are, okay? That's step 1. That's decision 1, is decide upon your values. And value is such a hot topic. Everybody loves to talk about values. Oh, values investing and values alignment and values living and spend your money in alignment with your values. Okay, that's great. I don't think anyone's really telling you what your values are or how to find them. That's how you find them.
Thanks for making the great decision to listen in to this week's episode highlight. If you want more of what you just heard, see the show notes for the full episode. As always, for the latest decision-making tips, find us on decidedlypodcast.com or on Instagram @decidedlypodcast. And be sure to sign up for our weekly newsletter from the link in the show notes. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review as well. We read all of your comments, so if you learned some decision-making tips today, let us know. Until next time, this is Decidedly. Insights, advice, and comments provided by Sean Smith, Sanger Smith, and speakers identified as part of the Decidedly podcast should not be considered recommendations. Speakers not identified as members of Decidedly are expressing their opinion, and their statements should not be construed as reflecting the views of the Decidedly team. This podcast is produced solely for informational purposes, not personalized advice.